Welcome back to episode 14 of Plat'n. We have another absolutely banging account with a 91.13% completion rate because we've got to keep that streak going. This is Txustrilla's account, Txustrilla. I hope I got the pronunciation right there. This is another awesome account. We have 122 platinums. Their first trophy being from oh no, I've forgotten the name. I was actually practicing this off before the recording, and I've already forgotten that this is bad. Give me a second. Atelier JRPG, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Journey. So that was what their first trophy was in approximately 4 years ago, but their first platinum was in God of War 2018. So let's jump into this. But before we do, of course, I need to plug the Platinum Standard, a Discord for trophy hunters to talk about all things trophies, to put your own account on the list for this series, and all that sort of fun stuff. And you get to talk to me, so that's a win-win, right? Once again, if you would like your own list in this series, do leave it in the comments below, or join the Platinum Standard and leave it in the channel there. Now, let's jump into the review. Alrighty, and getting the ball rolling, we have 1111 Memories Retold, this being a adventure game. I believe it's a side-scroller, and it's like a historical-based setting. Do prove me right or wrong in the comments if you know. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This is a relatively easy platinum with a 57.83% completion rate, as you can see there. Txustrilla here. I'm going to say Txustrilla. I'm going to hope that the pronunciation's right. If it is not, I'm very, very sorry. But as you can see, Txustrilla here smashed out in just under 2 weeks with a 1 week and 6 days. Plague Tale Innocence, we've got the double stack here. That's a cheeky auto pop on the PS5. That 9 minutes and 55 seconds, I'm on you. I got my eyes on you. I would probably do the same realistically. A Plague Tale Innocence is actually a really good game. As you can see, they did the initial run on the PS4 with 3 days and 9 hours, which sounds about right. Very, very fun. It's set in medieval France. You play as a young noble lady who is escorting her gifted younger brother out of plague-infested France. Very, very fun. A lot of escorting, but it's done quite well. A lot of the trophies were relatively easy. There was a exploit I remember you could do, which would save you. Essentially, if you did it legit from memory, you had to do like 1.5 playthroughs to upgrade all of your stuff. There was an exploit where in chapter 10, if you loaded in and you did like a button combo, it quit you out but left the upgrade menu on or something, and so you could just upgrade all of your stuff that way. Of course, I did that naturally. I'm a filthy trophy hunter, but it's a very, very good game. Definitely one I'd recommend. A Way Out. I think we've had A Way Out every single episode but my own. Hashtag no friends. You're breaking out of prison. It's a 2-player game, so you and a friend or a stranger or whatever have to work together to bust out of prison. Very, very fun story. Some plot twists that you'll probably see coming, you probably won't see coming. It's a lot of fun. Rise here with the week in 5 days, the 30.5%. You love to see it. Only one Assassin's Creed. Txustrilla, we need to talk about this. I'm quite distraught. I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay. We're just gonna move on. Definitely lacking the Assassin's Creeds, and I am now eternally shook. Astro's Playroom, 100%. Very, very fun game. This is built into the PS5, so if you get a PS5, this is a game that just comes with the system, which is very, very nice. Platformer that sort of harkens back to a lot of franchises from Sony's history and the consoles and the hardware, which is really cool to see. It's a platformer, so you'll be climbing over PlayStation 1s and moves and all that fun stuff. The 100% is a speed run, as you can see by the 37% completion rate there. Very, very easy. All of the speedruns are very forgivable. I think one of them took me more than one attempt, maybe 2. The rest of them were all very, very cruisy and also very fun. Normally, as someone who personally hates speedruns with a passion, those were quite cruising, quite fun. We then get into the Atelier series here. Atelier, I'm not entirely sure the pronunciation. I've never actually played a single one of these, but these are JRPGs. We have Atelier Ferris, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Journey. Atelier Ferris, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Journey DX. Like Yu-Gi-Oh, you know that's cool because it's got DX at the end. Atelier Lalia, I'm just going to move on with my life. The Scion of Ireland. Atelier Liddy and Sueli, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Paintings. Atelier Riser 2, The Lost Legends and the Secret Fairy. Atelier Riser, Ever Darkness of the Secret Hideout. I like these names because I can pronounce these. Atelier Sophie 2, The Alchemist and the Mysterious Dream. And to top off the series, we have Atelier Sophie, The Alchemist of the Mysterious Book. It must be a very mysterious book because it's got a lot of content based on it. Like I said, very popular JRPGs. You can sort of tell by the completion rates on the right-hand side that none of these are particularly challenging, but definitely very long. You can see by the 1 week, 2 days, 2 weeks, 3 days, 1 week, 3 days, 2 weeks, 1 day, etc., that they're beefy JRPGs. We then have Beyond Two Souls, which is surprisingly irregular in this series. I would say, as a game that if I'm ever browsing PSNP, I don't often see this one. You can tell the 6.8% completion rate with the Platinum there. Not the most popular David Cage game. Heavy Rain is like double that, and then Detroit Human is double Heavy Rain in terms of completions off the top of my head. So it's funny to see Beyond Two Souls nearly every single week at this point. I believe this is the first David Cage game, the other two building off of that. Now that we've seen this one, I would near bet that we're going to see the other two later on the list, but this is an okay one. Bloodborne, 100%, you love to see that. It's Bloodborne. It's, in my opinion, the best Souls game, the best FromSoft game, by quite a chunk. Probably the most forgivable platinum of the lot, except for Elden Ring. Elden Ring is definitely the easiest platinum. This one only really has a couple missable things, umbilical cords, some of the weapons, but the weapons, I believe it's one weapon, and I believe you can get it within the first hour of a second playthrough, for example, so it's not too difficult to get back to should you mess up. The DLC is hard. The Orphan of Koz's scream I still hear every time I shut my eyes, but very, very, very fun game. My ability to speak today. Blue Reflection and Blue Reflection Second Light. I'm going to be honest, I've actually never heard of these. I'm going to take a guess. 1 year, 7 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. JRPGs. Can you tell it's a weak spot in my knowledge, JRPGs? I should get onto that. I've had people recommend things like Persona, for example. So maybe JRPG, maybe not. I'm sure someone will let us know in the comments. Bugsnax, not 100%ed, but that is because you played it on launch. I believe it came out in November 2020. I would say, Txustrilla, if you wanted to go back and clean something up, that DLC is fairly simple and cruisy. One of the trophies is very, very, very grindy. You've got to do a lot of side quests to get decorations for your house, essentially, but for the most part, most of those side quests are like 5 minutes at the extreme longest. The others being 30 seconds or so. So it's not too awful, but very, very fun game. Bugsnax was one that I played this year that sort of really took me by surprise. Think like Pokemon Snap, except instead of taking photos, you're catching them and force feeding your villagers. It's a lot of fun. We then get into the Call of Duties here with only 2 of them, with Modern Warfare 2019, 98%, the remaining 2% being the DLC Spec Ops. I believe it's 2 maps off the top of my head, and you need 4 people. I haven't done it myself. I should probably get around to that at some point. Modern Warfare 2019, very, very fun game. Trophies are very, very cruisy. You can do this in, as you can see, a day and 15 hours. I think my completion might have even been less than a day. I think I did it in not a single sitting, but like 2 sittings. Very, very fun. Definitely very excited to see what they do with Modern Warfare 2, Remake, Remaster, Redux, XL in the coming months, because I think that comes out in October, if I'm not mistaken. Vanguard is next. This was their World War II game after the good World War II game in World War II. Vanguard is a game of two halves. The campaign, popcorn good. It's a campaign where you just shut your brain off and you have fun with the set pieces, and you don't think about all of the inaccuracies, like the Australian guy not being Australian in real life. He was actually a New Zealander. But it's fun. There's a lot of fun sections in that campaign, a lot of semi-memorable ones, which is, better than some of the COD campaigns could say. The multiplayer and the zombies. Worst in the series? The zombies is definitely the worst in the series by miles. It makes COD Ghost look like a masterpiece. The multiplayer, super forgettable. It's essentially just Modern Warfare's multiplayer, but with a World War II skin and really bad spawns. It's a week in 10 hours. Yeah, that's about what I would say too. The only really awful trophy is this one for getting 10,000 kills in the zombies, and the zombies doesn't actually perform like traditional zombies. You don't have an Easter egg or any of that sort of stuff. You just go and do like 2-minute long like mini games, almost like hold a spot or capture a flag, stuff like that, and just try and maximize your kills there. And it's boring. It's one of the worst things I've done this year in terms of trophies. And I tapped a jar for a video. We then have Child of Light. This was Ubisoft's non-platinum. It's 100%, but this was their like side-scrolling, I'm gonna say action-adventure game. Everything is like in poem, which is really, really cool. I played maybe 40 minutes of this a couple months ago. It's one that I really want to go back to myself. So congrats on the 100% there, Txustrilla. Definitely a fun little game. I didn't like how the orb that is your side companion operated. You essentially use the right stick to move it around, and I didn't really feel that, to be honest. Concrete Genie, not 100%ed. That's because I'm guessing you don't have VR. I feel your pain. Very, very fun game. You play as a boy in a very run-down, dark, dingy, industrial, heavy town that is painting animals that come to life, or monsters that come to life, on a wall to try and breathe life into stuff. And at some point, the game does a complete 360 in terms of gameplay, and goes like all out action, and it was awesome. It was really good fun, actually. We then get, I see you're a Dark Souls fan, because we then have the rest of the series here with Dark Souls 2, School of the First Sin, 3, and Remastered, all 100%. You love to see it. My personal ranking of these, if anyone cares, is probably Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, and then Dark Souls 2. And the only reason for that, I don't hate Dark Souls 2. A lot of people do, unfortunately. My only issue with it is every Souls game has bad level design, rough levels. Demon Souls Remastered is an entire thing of bad redesign levels. Dark Souls 2 just has what I call like the gauntlet of suck, and it's like 12 back-to-back bad areas in the middle of the game. That is just very hard to ever go back to. I need to finish this myself. You've actually done an amazing job here smashing these out, especially Dark Souls 3 in 2 weeks and 6 days. Some of the things like farming the Silver Knights for one of the faction items, I think it's ears from memory. You got to like cut some dude's ears off. It's like 30. Is rough. It takes a very long time, but you smashed it out in 2 weeks. So congratulations there. I'm also seeing a cheeky Demon Souls down below. We then have Days Gone, the Platinum, not the 100%. Another one I can completely understand, and I'm in the same boat myself. Days Gone, very fun game. Story goes on a little too long. I remember getting to the final like area of the game and being like, I'd be happy just to end here. Like we don't need to do this, do we? Very slow. Movement heavy, very, your bike feels weighty, all this sort of stuff. Your ammo is scarce and important. You're crafting Molotovs and stuff like this. You're fighting hordes of 100 zombies. It's fun. The DLC sucks. The DLC essentially goes, okay, what about if we do all of this, but we add challenges that work in arcade games, such as, you know, jumping through hoops and all this sort of stuff on a time-based thing, but in a game where it's got realistic physics and stuff, and it just, yeah, it doesn't work in my opinion. I need to go back and get that 100% at some point, but it won't be anytime soon. We then have Death Stranding, about a 50% completion here. Is this our first not Atelier game that hasn't been platinumed? I think it might be, actually. Norman Reedus is a post-apocalyptic postman with a baby on his back, and Mads Mikkelsen is a ghost man or something. That's Death Stranding in a nutshell, really. Demo the Last Recital, I've never heard of. This is another one that I haven't. It's an ultra rare 100% though, so that's kind of neat. We then have Deliver Us the Moon, which I think is your most recent platinum off the top of my head. You play an astronaut that is sent to the moon to kind of find out what happened to a colony that has gone dark and fix the place to save humanity or something. I can't quite remember. I might have been on the beers when I played this. This game broke for me. Very good game, very fun. It's not a AAA game, so it definitely lacks polish, but it's an interesting game. It's got interesting premises and concepts and all that fun stuff. The game itself completely broke for me. I had to uninstall it twice because the map sort of just collapsed in on itself, which I've never seen in another game. The trophies kind of just popped whenever they felt like it, which was interesting. Story stuff was popping out of order. The collectible trophy didn't pop for me, and then randomly decided to pop at the end of the credits, or midway through the credits or something, which, you know, in some games that's a thing, but it wasn't supposed to be a thing in this game. There was some shenanigans there, but overall the game is definitely an interesting one. Demon Slayer, Kemetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokama Chronicles. I probably butchered the living hell out of that. Apologies. I'm gonna say that this is JRPG. That's my automatic genre if I don't know it. It's visual novel or it's JRPG. Sometimes it's a combo of the both. But yeah, that's not one that I know, but week and 5 days, very impressive, 100% there. Demon Souls, 6 months and 2 weeks. I can believe it. I went into that one very, very excited. I'm working on a video for it. It's just very slow and steady. But boy, did I forget how awful that game actually is. Some of those levels are just bad. Like there's no real way of describing it. It's just not good. The game is pretty. The controls are fairly sound. Magic is viable. But some of those levels, the Road of Sacrifice or whatever it's called in 4.2 is just the worst thing. I'll eventually get it done myself, but I can see why this took you 6 weeks, where the rest of them only took a couple of weeks or a month. 6 months, sorry, not 6 weeks. We then have Detroit Become Human. I predicted we would see this. This is David Cage's latest game. It's not great in my opinion, but I can understand why people enjoy this one. This is one where it sort of delves into the consequences of AI and AI's rights. You know, if you beat an android, is that abuse? Stuff like that. Cool concepts. Drags on and on and on, especially if you're going for the trophies and you need multiple runs for like 4 magazines, which are the collectibles in the game. So interesting idea. If you like the premise of it that I sort of semi-described, definitely look into it. Clancy Brown is fantastic in it, for example, but I would say personally that Heavy Rain is the best David Cage game in my opinion. Elden Ring with 2 weeks and 2 hours. Very fast there. I think that's about what it took me too, actually. It's incredible to see that Elden Ring is nearly a 50% completion. Like I alluded to with the Bloodborne look in earlier in this list, I would say personally that Elden Ring is the easiest trophy list. 95% of the list is kill X boss. I think only one of the trophies in the entire thing is missable. That's the legendary weapons. There is one that is technically missable, but very, very fun game. I would say I liked Elden Ring. It's weird because I loved it when I was playing it, but I haven't had a desire to go back to it. And the rest of the Souls games, I think every single one of them that I've played, the only one I haven't played is Sekiro, I've wanted to go back to pretty much immediately afterwards. So interesting there. And I also think the last couple bosses, some of them are a bit crap, but otherwise fantastic game. Fairy Tail, I believe this is a JRPG. Fall Guys, we've got this twice here. We have the original version with an auto pop 3 times. Sorry, I can't count. 3 times here with an auto pop on the EU version. The PS5 version you're slowly working on. This is one where you have to do the 5 wins in a row legit, which is rough. And then you did the original version of the game, which is now unobtainable because the lobbies were swapped out. You did that one around when I think, yeah. So you did that. Yeah, you did that when the 5 wins in a row could be done in a lobby. As you can see, the list is entirely unobtainable because Epic Games ditched the original launcher for the game. Fatal Frame, this is a horror game where you take photos of ghosts, essentially. Very, very fun. This is a remaster from a PS2 game, I believe it was. It's one I kind of want to do myself at some point too. As you can see there, sub 10% Plat's always very, very impressive. And a week and 6 days is really good. We then get some Final Fantasies here with 7 remakes, auto pop on the PS5. You haven't done the, is it called the Intermission DLC, I believe? We then have the PS4 base version that doesn't have DLC. I prefer the original myself. I miss the turn-based combat. Final Fantasy 15, you've done the Platinum, not 100%. The Comrades DLC, as you can see there by the 10 unobtainable trophies, is technically unobtainable, but I will say, if you ever wanted to go back and do the 100%, you can use software to reverse patch your game to get it to a point where the patch was before they locked Comrades, because Comrades is now its own standalone mode. So you can go back to the point where before that's updated to then get in and get the trophies that way. So it's technically obtainable, but for the average person, it's unobtainable. And that's the last of the Final Fantasies. I'm actually kind of surprised based on what we've seen on this list so far. I would have thought we'd have a big beefy stack of those. Get Even. This is a fun action game, I believe. 3 days and 8 hours. You'd love to see it. Ghost of Tsushima. That is just the... Is it just the... hold on. Let's go into this. I think it's just the Platinum. I think the Platinum has 52 trophies. But I am curious. Have you worked on the raid at all? No. Okay, so that is just the Platinum. Thought so. Ghost of Tsushima, this is essentially Assassin's Creed, but in Japan. You play as a samurai on the island of Tsushima. When the Mongols invade, you've got to fight them off. You've got to take over their camps. All that fun stuff. Think Assassin's Creed Origin through Valhalla. But in Japan, you have this game. It does have some cool stuff like the combat. The different stances to take on different enemies was a very unique touch. But the trophy list and the core gameplay, very Assassin's Creed. I've heard very good things about the DLC. The raid DLC is think Destiny, but with swords. A team of, I believe, 4 with different classes is taking waves of enemies out to get to a boss. The other one is Ghost of Ishi Island, which is where you go to another island to deal with the Mongols there. And I haven't played that one myself, but I've heard very good things about that one as well. Ghostwire Tokyo. This is a game I was actually interested in, but reviews kind of deterred me personally. You play as someone who has had an accident. I believe you're in a car accident, and you merge with a ghost. Think Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor. And bad ghosts like make everyone in the city in Tokyo disappear. and so you are trying to work out how to get them back or something. I'm not entirely sure. It's an open world game, a lot of collectibles. The city looks really pretty from what I've seen. I should just sit down and play this. As you can see, 35.5% completion rate, so it's not the hardest game you'll ever see, but it's got very mixed reviews in terms of it gets very repetitive, I've heard. But I mean, it looks pretty and it looks unique, so I'll probably give that a try at some point. We then get some beefy God of Wars here with the original God of War on the Vita, God of War 2018, God of War 2 and 3 remastered, all 100%. You love to see it. Chef's kiss, beautiful. You love to see them. I think personally for me, God of War 3 is my favorite. It was the first one that I played because I'm a wee baby, but very, very fun game. The whole series is very fun. I've gone on and played the bulk of them. I think I might have played all of them, including the PSP ones. Ghosts of Sparta and Ascension. But yeah, very, very fun games. We then have Gree. Gree is kind of an artsy side-scrolling game that I've heard very, very good things about. As you can see, relatively quick one with an 8 hours and a 54% completion rate. Following Gree, we have Heavy Rain, this being the last of the David Cage games. I knew we'd see them all. I told you, once you see one, you see them all. This is probably the best one, in my opinion. You play a father looking for his son, essentially. It's fun. A lot of endings. There's too many endings in this one. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I've talked about this one a lot on the channel. This is a game that deals with a lot of mental difficulties and stuff like that. It's one that is definitely on my radar to play because I am interested to see how a lot of that is handled by the game. Hollow Knight in 5 days and 20 hours. Is that a cheeky Pantheon glitch right there? Hollow Knight, very, very fun game. This is like a side-scrolling action platformer. A lot of people compare it to Souls, mainly just because the enemies are very hard-hitting, but I've heard very good things. A few people in the Platinum Standard Discord have recently been playing this and smashing it out, which makes me want to do it myself. Maybe I'll do a video on Hollow Knight at some point in the future. Horizon Zero Dawn, it's a shame they never made a sequel. Very fun open world game. You play as Aloy, who is set in a world, I believe, 1,000 years after our current civilization has sort of crumbled to bits. There's giant robot dinosaurs and all that fun stuff. It's fun. It's nothing massively special, but there's something fun about killing a giant robot T-Rex with a spear. Infamous Second Son. This is the last of the mainline Infamous games that we had. You play as Delson, who has, from memory, he starts with smoke powers. You get a couple more different types of powers as the game goes on as well. It's open world. I believe it's set in Seattle from memory, which is quite a unique setting. And it's fun. I think the original two were a lot better. Just Cole is a lot more interesting of a character. But it's fun. You do 2 playthroughs, one good, one bad. There's minimal differences realistically between the two, but it's fun. Iron Driver, I'm not entirely sure what this is, but it looks like it's a relatively cruisy plat with 1 hour and 3 minutes. It Takes Two, this is another one of those ones like A Way Out where you and another person play through the game, tackling different challenges and stuff like this. Journey, this was a very unique experience. These days it's very hard to find a partner. Myself and a good friend tried to do this one earlier this year with no luck. Essentially you're wandering, you're going on a journey. You float through the air, you pick collectibles up. It's very pretty, but it's hard to describe what Journey is, to be perfectly honest with you. One of the trophy that stopped me from doing this earlier this year is you've got to play the whole game with another partner without losing them, and we couldn't match up to save our lives. Judgment, this is made by the people that did the Yakuza games. I believe you play as a detective, I think. Open world, all that sort of fun stuff, with a impressive 41% there. It looks like you haven't played it for a little over a year now. Kena Bridge of Spirits, 100%. Another one you love to see. I would have this too, but alas, the collectible trophies have diddled me in that one of the chests just won't open, and so I can't get the trophy for all the chests. I actually plan on having another attempt at that soon. It's all I have left for the Platinum. There's a hardcore difficulty run, but I have that done. It is just getting that chest open for my own Platinum. Frustratingly, I mentioned it in the video for the 8 trophies that make me sad. Go check that out if you want to see me suffering. But very fun game. Think like Disney meets Pixar meets like Dark Souls meets like semi-open world. It's okay. We've got some Kingdom Hearts here with the first game and Birth by Sleep, these being large. Think Final Fantasy meets Disney characters, funny enough, going after Kena there. Knockout City, I believe this was free with PS Plus at some point. Lovely little ultra rare right there, you love to see it. Little Adventure on the Prairie, this is one of the OG easy peasy games. As you can see, Txustrilla knocked it out in not even 20 minutes. Lydia, another relatively easy peasy there with a 94% and 54-minute completion rate. Maneater, Platinum but no 100%. I can understand that DLC is very, very, very repetitive. The game itself is repetitive, but you play as a shark, you eat people, you throw boats. That's what you do in hour 1 of the game is what you're doing in hour 25. Marquette, this is an interesting puzzle game that was free on PS Plus. It's one that I have been meaning to do at some point myself. Martha is Dead is actually one that is on my radar to play. I remember another trophy YouTuber, Mert KK, did a very good retrospective on the game, or a deep dive, and I am interested in it. It doesn't look great. Has a lot of flaws. This was a game that was very notorious when it came out because Sony censored a lot of stuff. What your take is on that is fair enough. But yeah, it's one that I want to try out at some point. You can see it must have had a popularity boost at some point because it's at a 44% completion rate there. Marvel Spider-Man, you play as Spider-Man, open world, very fun game. I've been meaning to play Miles Morales myself at some point. The trophies are all very cruisy. I don't think there's anything missable off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't think there is. But some of the things like getting all the random crimes is very annoying. Masira is one that I've never heard of. Middle-earth Shadow of War, Game of the Year edition. It's Middle-earth. You play as Talion. You're a ranger that is stationed at the Black Gate when Sauron returns to Mordor and claps your cheeks. Very fun game. You're building up an army with the Nemesis system. This is the good one of the Middle-earth games. The trophies are kind of hard. Like, there's one for getting a level 25 rune that is a lot easier to do in the DLC, which I noticed you haven't done. The DLC themselves are actually quite difficult. There's a trophy for essentially speedrunning one of the DLCs in, I think, under an hour. You've got to capture all the war chiefs, or a certain number of them, do a bunch of stuff. Very, very tricky. Monkey King Hero is back. I've never heard of this. This is another one. I assume, I'm going to guess on this one that this is a fighting game. And I have no real reason for this prediction, but I'm going with it. Monster Hunter World, this is one that I'm working on myself. Very, very fun game, open world. Essentially, you make a character, you then go on contracts and hunt giant dinosaurs and monsters and stuff. You get better gear by using the parts of the monsters that you defeat. Simple gameplay, very, very addictive. There's a couple absolute legends in the Discord that are definitely holding my hand through that. My name is Mayo, not surprised to see this here. You tap a mayonnaise jar for an hour, you get a platinum, or 24 minutes in your situation there, which is very impressive. You must have thumbs of steel. Nier Replicant version 1.224744871139. It's a Nier game. Nier is like a semi-open world I've heard Souls-like combat. It's not my sort of thing personally. Nier Automata, same deal. Knights of Azure, this is, I think, same sort of deal again, actually. Nioh, this is a Souls-like clone. You play as a dude who goes to essentially Japan, breaks out of prison in England and goes to Japan from memory. Some rough trophies in this one. A lot of the DLC requires you to run through the base game over and over again at higher difficulties to beat the same bosses that are just harder. Not my idea of fun personally, and it looks like it's not yours either, given that you have the Platinum but not the 100%. Very impressive Platinum though, and I've heard that Nioh 2 improved a lot on where the first game sort of faltered, so maybe that's one to look into, Txustrilla. Odin Sphere, Life Frazier, something like that. No clue what this is, gonna be honest. Operation Tango, this is a fun co-op game where you and a partner have to solve a bunch of situations. One of you is the field agent, one of you is the guy behind the computer, and the two of you are working with the data available to the two of you to solve the problem. I'm throwing my hands around a lot this video. It's a moving video, feels good. Geez, I chat some crap sometimes. Overcooked, all you can eat. This is, I believe, the combined Overcooked, so 1 and 2 into one trophy list. I've heard very good things. I need to play this at some point myself. You and a team of up to 3 people are trying to get 3 stars in a kitchen that usually has some sort of scenario that you're trying to avoid, be it the kitchen being on 2 trucks that are moving down a highway at different speeds. You might be on an ice cube in the sea. You might have zombies coming up, all that sort of weird stuff. Owlboy, I'm not entirely sure what Owlboy is. 3 days, 3 hours. Near 30% is definitely an impressive one there. We then have 2 Ratchet and Clanks with the 2016 remaster, and then Rift Apart, which is the PS5 exclusive. I like 2016 quite a bit. I think the game that it remastered is better in that they kind of cut out a lot of content. I believe a lot of the original data and code and stuff was non-existent anymore, which made it difficult for them. Rift Apart, a lot of people love it. I thought it was just kind of okay, in all honesty. Like, it was a good game, but it kind of, all I really thought it had going for it was that it was pretty. Like, if I think back at the levels and stuff, it's not as memorable as the original trilogy. Like, Up Your Arsenal has some great levels, and then you get to this and it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is pretty. Remothered, Broken Porcelain, these I believe are horror games, and Tormented Fathers being the same series. We then get into some Resident Evils with 3 and 3's auto pop right there. If you do, I believe it is 2 remastered, 3 remastered, and 7 on the PS5, all auto pop. So if you have data for the PS4 version, you can then pop the trophies that you've unlocked on the PS5 as well, which is the case here with the 1 second platinum in Resident Evil 3. 3 is pretty fun. I thought this is another remaster, kind of like 2016's, where they took the original game and they cut way too much content, stuff like the clock tower. 100% should have been in the game. Definitely very disappointing to see those missing, but impressive to see that you've got them both done. Resident Evil 4, this is weirdly enough doesn't have a platinum. I assume because I think how it works, and definitely how it used to work more than now, in that we have so much garbage on the store, is a game had to acquire a certain number of points to be eligible for a platinum. So you might have a bronze, a silver, and a gold all have a different point allocation to them, kind of like gamer score. That then needed to total up to 1,500, let's say. I'm throwing a number out there. Once it did that, it met the requirements for the platinum, and that's why a lot of games have 50 or 51 trophies and stuff like that. Resident Evil 4 only has 12 trophies, which meant that it didn't get there, which means it wasn't eligible for a platinum, is how my understanding of this works. It could be very, very wrong. I could be chatting absolute filth, but that's how I believe it worked. 4 is a very good game. I definitely think it's overrated as a Resident Evil. I definitely prefer some like the original 2, for example, even the 2 remake, 7, maybe even 8, depending on what the day is. Definitely the first half of 8. but it's very fun. It's definitely a very good one. It's one that I need to do myself. It's one of the mainline series I'm actually missing. But very, very good game and definitely worth playing despite the lack of a platinum. We then have 7 Biohazard, the platinum, not the 100%. I did this very recently. There's a video on the channel, so go check that out if you want to see my experiences with 7. 7 is different to the rest of the mainline series in that you are playing in first person, which is a lot of fun in all honesty. The horror works quite well. The moldy bastards, as I affectionately call them, are quite scary. It's definitely fun. The DLC is tricky though. Some of those modes like Even Must Die, I need to go back to at some point, and I am absolutely dreading them. Village, 100%. I believe we're getting DLC at some point, so that'll be bumped down a little bit. Like 7, this built off 7. It's a direct sequel to 7, but it kind of focused more on action, and I wasn't quite as sold on that action. I really like the first 2 areas, and I really dislike the second 2 areas, or the last 2 areas. So kind of an equal split. Mercenaries isn't as bad as a lot of people have said. OptiNoob on this on PSNP has some really good guides for it that'll sort of trivialize a lot of it. The fact that you can pause between kills and sort of work out where you want to route next is very, very handy. But overall, a very good game and a very good list of Resident Evils right there, Txustrilla. We then have Returnal's 100%, which is really impressive because Returnal is a roguelike, and if you've been around the channel, you know my feelings on roguelikes at the moment. I'm just too baby bad at games. Let's all be real. You play as an astronaut who crashes on a planet. You then need to get through the planet. Every time you die, you go back to the start, but you keep some of the, I believe, skills and maybe gear. I haven't actually played Returnal myself. I've just watched people play it. You go back to the start with gear and knowledge, and then you try and push further. If you've played Hades, every Ubisoft DLC at the moment, all that sort of fun stuff, you know what a roguelike is. But I definitely think this is one of the more unique spins on it. Rhyme, this was actually my first platinum on Symmetry. The End is the New Beginning is a super fitting name for a new account. Rhyme is quite fun. You play as a little boy who is exploring an island, and there's a little bit more depth to that, but it's fun, it's simple, it's cruisy, really. That's all I can really use to describe it. Rise of the Tomb Raider's platinum. I am jealous because I am lazy. I have not done the challenge stuff myself. I think the whole idea where you've got to get the RNG based cards to then be able to do the score attack and the time attack is kind of dumb. I believe it was supposed to like encourage people to spend money on card packs back in the day. These days, I think you can kind of cheese it by just looking at the leaderboard and picking whatever cards they used. I believe you can use their cards for like a cost penalty or something. Not entirely sure on that. Road 96, I believe this is an easy peasy, but like in that you can do it in like an hour, but you did in about a day and 10 hours. Road Bustle, definitely an easy peasy, 9 minutes, not even 10 minutes for a 98.72% completion. That is terrifying. It's no chickens on the road though. Rocket League, nearly 100%. You don't have, I believe, I'm going to say the most recent DLC. This game puts out DLC fairly frequently, kind of like Killing Floor 2. Rocket League is a game where you're in cars playing stuff like soccer. It's, or football as the rest of the world, I guess, calls it. Interesting concept. Definitely interesting. Rogue Company, this is a first-person shooter, or a shooter. With the PS5 version there as well. I think it might be third person. I think I might have got the first person part wrong. Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. JRPG maybe? Sekiro Wars. JRPG maybe? Season After the Fall's an interesting one here though, because this is a game that I actually have downloaded and kind of want to do myself at some point. It looks kind of interesting. I think it's like a side scroller of sorts. I'm not entirely sure yet. I think you play as a fox. But that bear just looks like it's absolutely vibing, and I'm here for that. We then have Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is your first FromSoft without the Platinum and the 100%, which is interesting. I assume you didn't like the change in the combat. This game is, I haven't played it myself, but from what I've heard, very, very different to the rest of the Souls games in that the combat is very parry focused and kind of like a war of attrition in that, you know, you're sort of working on how can you defeat the other guy's stamina bar before he can defeat yours, which then lowers their guard instead of yours. We then have Sly 2 and Sly 1, the Thievius, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, rather. Slide, this is an easy peasy puzzle slider game you did in 25 seconds. That's a thing. We then have the Spyro trilogy. You play as a little purple dragon going through semi-open worlds, collecting gems, saving dragons, all the fun stuff. This is a game of, I'm sure, most of our childhoods right here. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. You play as a young Jedi Padawan post-Order 66 as he completes his training and kicks ass. It's kind of like a baby's first Dark Souls in terms of the combat. I actually really enjoy this one, and I'm definitely very, very hyped for the sequel, which I believe comes out end of this year, start of next year, something like that. We then have Stray being a game where you play as a cat. A lot of hype for this game. I think a lot of that hype is purely because you play as a cat. But it's fun. It's another game that I did a video on this very channel, detailing the process of getting all the trophies. I would say the hardest trophy is the one where you got to get away from the little orange balls of death without being touched. Definitely tricky. I think it took me about 20 minutes to sort of work out a viable path, but it is definitely semi-RNG based, which is fun. We then have Subnautica Twice. I'm gonna say that both of these are console commands. You could probably do it in 4 hours legit if you knew what you were doing, I guess. But you can definitely also use console commands to spawn a lot of stuff in and teleport yourself around the place. I would know because I did it. The game is a very, 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 very fun game. I would say on PS4, it's not as enjoyable. I found a lot of issues with the UI and lag and stuff like that. I started the game. It was free. It was free in, I believe, April of 2020. It was like a stay-at-home games initiative or something. And I was very, very hyped. I'd played the game a lot on PC and knew what I was getting into. It was going to be fun and exciting. And it kind of burnt me in how, like, not optimized for PS4 it was at the time. I don't know what it's like for PS5, obviously. But yeah, it definitely somewhat burnt me, unfortunately. So I used the console commands to knock it out of the way myself. Soon Wakun versus Robot. This is an easy peasy with an 83.89% completion. Siphon Filter. This is a port of a PS1 game. It looks like it. You play as essentially a spy going into a facility to, I believe, blow it up from memory. It's been a while since I've played this. Next up, we have the Tales series with two of them here, with Tales of Arise and Tales of Berseria. I actually know these are JRPGs. I'm going to win this one. I know this one. They're fairly beefy ones too, so the 2 weeks and 2 days for Tales of Arise is actually super impressive there. We then have Tekken 7. This was the fighting series that I grew up with on the PS1 back in the day when I was a wee youngin' and still had a hairline. We then have The Artful Escape. This is free on PS Plus Extra, I believe. It's okay. Essentially, all you do is run right and occasionally do a quick time event, but it's okay. It's got Carl Weathers in it, so that's always fun. We then have Last of Us Part 2, the Platinum, but not the 100%, so you haven't done the grounded mode or the permadeath. Fair enough. Very long game. It's one that I've sort of talked about in depth quite a bit in the past. I think this game would have been a hell of a lot better if Ellie just simply hadn't been a playable character. I don't think a lot of the actions that you're forced to do as her really work. The game is going, look at these bad things you did, whilst forcing you to do them. I thought the Abbey sections were a lot better and a lot better paced as well. So yeah, that's The Last of Us 2 really in a nutshell. The Order 1886, I actually quite like this. It's very, very short. It's a shame we'll probably never see a sequel, but you play as one of the Knights of the Round Table fighting werewolves and one vampire at one point. We then have The Sims 4, 13 hours and 54 minutes. I'm going to say use the gallery to get all the families and stuff that you need for the trophies. Sims 4 runs very poorly on PS4. It's like, I'm talking lag of up to like 15, 20 seconds to get your sim to open a fridge. So I can definitely understand trying to get that just done as fast as possible. The Town of Light, this is another one that I've been sort of semi-curious about at some point. I think this is kind of like a mystery adventure sort of game where you're trying to work out what happened. I believe that this is actually free if you buy Martha is Dead. I think this is like sort of bundled in with that or something. So that's interesting. We then have Tomb Raider 2013. Medkits, level 60, all you do is medkits. The story though, the single player is actually probably the best of the trilogy in my opinion by like a country mile. It has characters, so that's fun. Lara Croft is likable, so that's fun. Yeah, definitely the best of the trilogy. Rise being next, and then Shadow of the Tomb Raider is sort of just a stain. We then have some Uncharted's here. Not all 100%, it looks like. I'm going to say for the remaster trilogy, you haven't done the speed run, you haven't done the Donut Drake speed run, and you haven't done the brutal difficulties. Fair enough. The speed runs are actually fairly cruisy in Uncharted. Brutal difficulty is not designed for Uncharted. I would say of the original trilogy, I would say 2 is probably the best, but all 3 are very, very fun. Think Indiana Jones mixed with a serial killer, and you have Nathan Drake. Uncharted 4, awesome game. I actually have a... it's not going to be viable to pull it up because it's underneath my monitor, but I actually have the limited edition blue PS4 for Uncharted 4, which is kind of funny given that I hadn't really played Uncharted up to that point. That was just a PS4 that I bought. And then Lost Legacy was originally supposed to be DLC for Uncharted 4, but is awesome. It's a very, very fun game. You play as Chloe with Nadine. These are 2 semi-reoccurring side characters from the Uncharted games. Very fun game. Until Dawn, this is like a Telltale game, but horror-based. You're sort of moving characters through engagements and encounters and making dialogue prompts that sort of affect story prompts down the line. Some of the decisions you make, might have someone survive or die, all that sort of fun stuff. It's good. I'm definitely interested in The Quarry and Man of Medan. It inspired the Dark Pictures anthology and The Quarry as well. We then have We Were Here. This is kind of like what's the game called? It Takes Two and A Way Out, same sort of thing. You're going into a mansion with another player and you are doing a bunch of puzzles and stuff, solving them together to escape. We then have When the Past Was Around, which I've never heard of, but I'm going to assume is an easy peasy based on the 87% completion rate. Do correct me if I'm wrong, of course. World of Final Fantasy. This is the 4th, I think this is our 4th Final Fantasy for this list, because we had 7 twice and we had 15, so I think this is the 4th one that we've seen. Yakuza Like a Dragon, this is the most recent release in the Yakuza series. It's also an interesting one in that it made the combat, I believe, turn-based, and it's a lot more colorful and I think a lot more lighthearted than... I mean, they're all fairly quirky, but this is sort of the most colorful of them. I think you get a lobster, so it's one that I definitely want to... If I was to try Yakuza, this is the one that I would try, I think. And then we finish this list with 2 stacks of Yiz or YS8 Lacrimosa of Dana or Dana. And one of them you did in 2 months and 3 weeks, one of them you did in 1 week and 4 days. And that's the list. So Txustrilla, I hope that I got your name right. Very awesome list that we had there. A lot of good games. It was nice to see some of the stuff like the Kingdom Hearts that we saw, the Final Fantasies that we saw, the Resident Evils. For 4 years to have, I believe it was 122. Let me scroll to the top to confirm. 122 platinums. I got it right. Go me, yay. Thank you so much for letting me have a look at the list. And guys, I'll see you next week for episode 15. I miss you already. Bye-bye.